The summer of 1914 was one of the warmest Europe had ever seen. But beneath the surface of high society and imperial grandeur, a storm was brewing. For decades, the great powers, Britain, France, Germany, and Austria-Hungary, had been locked in an arms race. Their empires stretched across the globe, but their borders in Europe were tense. A complex web of secret treaties meant that if one country moved to war, they all would. The world was a powder keg, and on June 28th, Gavrilo Princip, a young Serbian nationalist, provided the spark. By assassinating Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo, he didn't just kill a man, he murdered the old world order. When the ultimatums were rejected, the dominoes began to fall. Germany's Schlieffen Plan called for a lightning strike through neutral Belgium to knock France out of the war. But the invasion brought Great Britain into the conflict. By August, the continent was in flames. Millions of young men cheered as they boarded trains, convinced they would be heroes. They wore brightly colored uniforms and carried a naive sense of glory. They marched into the first month of the war of movement. Not knowing that the age of cavalry and bayonet charges was dying under the hail of machine gun fire. The dream of a quick victory died in the mud of the Marne. Both sides dug in, seeking cover from the devastating power of modern artillery. What started as temporary foxholes evolved into a vast, intricate system of trenches stretching for 450 miles. This was the birth of the Western Front. Life here was a hellish routine of mud, lice, and the constant smell of death. Between the opposing lines lay no man's land, a wasteland of craters and shattered forests. For the next few years, generals would sacrifice hundreds of thousands of lives to gain just a few hundred yards of earth. At the Battle of Verdun and the Somme, the scale of slaughter reached levels humanity had never imagined. but the fire in Europe could not be contained. In the east, the Ottoman Empire, seeking to reclaim lost glory and territories, joined the Central Powers. The entry of the Ottomans changed the geography of the war, opening fronts from the snowy peaks of the Caucasus to the scorching sands of Mesopotamia. At Gallipoli, a legendary resistance would be born, proving that the Ottoman sick man of Europe still had a devastating bite. By 1917, the world was exhausted. Russia, torn apart by internal revolution, collapsed and exited the war. It seemed like Germany might finally win. But then, the sleeping giant awoke. Provoked by unrestricted submarine warfare and the Zimmermann telegram, the United States entered the fray, bringing endless resources and millions of fresh troops to the exhausted Allies. The final German offensive failed. One by one, the Central Powers collapsed. Bulgaria, the Ottomans, and finally Austria-Hungary signed armistices. On November 11, 1918, the guns finally fell silent. 4 empires had vanished. 20 million were dead. The map of the world was redrawn. But the peace was fragile, sowing the seeds for an even darker conflict 20 years later. Beyond the recreations, this was the reality. These were the faces of the men who lived it. As we look back, we must remember, history is a lesson we must never forget. Lest we forget,